I'm just starting to see the fruits of my labor. This wasn't an overnight, sensation kind of a thing. There were a lot of things that failed and didn't do well. There are a lot of things that I put a lot of effort into, and it's like, wow, like 20 people watch this, or, like you got to keep grinding. You're not going to have instant overnight success. Dude, it's a wild story. It's wild. I am probably one of the most unconventional. I have one of the most unconventional startups out of anybody. So
Oh, we're
check
here
this
for the
out.
story. We're here for it.
So I've been doing this about 18 years now, but I'm going to say as a legitimate business, about 10. Before I just kind of, dabbling here and there, but about 10 years I've been doing kind of what you see on the day to day online and stuff like that. So, um, back in, God, this is probably almost 15, 20 years ago. My brother, who's a DJ,
Okay. What's
one
his
morning,
name by the name?
so it was just DJ Bry. His
Okay.
name is Brian. He has a family now. He's kind of moved on to other things. So little sister has kind of fallen into the footsteps. But like I said, this is
Nice.
a wild story. So I actually never wanted to be a DJ, believe it or not. It was
Hmm.
never written in the cards. It's never something I aspired to be. But obviously being around my brother who did it, it was kind of his first job, so to speak. He worked for a multi-op, so he just would pick up events here and there. And of course, me being around him, little sister wanting to, dig in his Fire CD collection,
Okay.
right? And just play with things. I kind of picked up little things here and there, but it was never the vision of mine. So anyway, one morning we hear a really loud crash in our upstairs of our house, and my family and I run upstairs, and we find my brother unconscious on the floor, and he had fallen into his closet doors, which is what the loud crash we heard was. Um, we obviously had no idea what was going on. So just to kind of quell everybody's anxiety, he lived. We found out he was an undiagnosed type 1 diabetic. But
Wow.
we never suspected it because he was like 20, 22 years old at the time, so it's just kind of weird. So any which way, we obviously call for ambulatory services. He's whisked off to the ICU because at the time we had no idea if he was dead or alive. Like we didn't realize it was a diabetic coma. Um, but he was actually getting ready for a wedding that day. Now, I was only, I don't know, 15 or 16 at the time. I even had my learner's permit. Like I wasn't even able, legally able to drive,
Okay.
at the time. And we're also talking about a time where, again, CD collections, these big bulky case logic cases, and you had, the catalog with the binder to flip through to tell you what
Yep.
was on what CD. It wasn't like, Beat
Absolutely.
Source, so you just type it in and boom, there you got it. Um, and he also had a really heavy passive Bose system, so things
Uh,
weren't even powered. So the amps like weighed more than I did, at the time. It wasn't as easy as we got it today.
now, yeah.
So any which way, I kind of looked at my dad and I said, Dad, he's supposed to be at a wedding. These people have no idea what's going on. And this is actually during a time where even like text messaging was a little cumbersome. Like we had texting then, but it was like, I don't know, 10 cents a text, and it wasn't what we know now. So
Yeah.
it wasn't really easy to get a hold of people. I had MapQuest directions, like it was
Yeah, I
before,
remember.
Google Maps and stuff. Dude, I'm telling you, we're old school. We're taking it back here.
Absolutely.
So I said to my dad, I was like, look, let's finish packing the car. Um, let's go to these people's houses and at least tell them what's going on, right? They at least deserve to know what happened to my brother, even just out of respect for, his name, that he wouldn't just take their money and flake out. Like I at least understood the gravity of that. So we took the MapQuest directions. My dad helped me finish packing up the car. We drive to the spot, and we see everybody there, and they're like, who is this little girl and who is this like weird old man? like who are
It's
these
not our
people?
DJ. It's not who we
this is
think.
this this is not our DJ, dude. Where's my car? Like they had no idea what was going on. So my father and I explained to them, what had happened, and that we really didn't have a lot of information. For all we know, he could be dead right now, but we just wanted to come and do the right thing to let them know, what was up. And I told him, I was like, listen, I'm not a DJ, but I definitely know enough to like hit play. I know what a volume fader is. I have tinkered around his CD collection. Like I know how to find what songs you may want. So I'd be more than willing to do what I can for you today. I'm assuming I would be better than nothing. It's either that or put on a radio and I don't know, a popular radio station on here, Star 99.9, like put on FM radio or have nothing. So they go, yeah, I mean, if there's no other choice, whatever you can do, please do it. So my dad and I showed up really extra early again because we had no idea how to hook any of this crap up. And it pretty much was trial and error. It was like, okay, if this is a round hole and we see a round thing, you stick it in and do you have sound? If you don't, put it in the next hole. And if you don't, and we just kept sticking things in holes and connectors and plugging it to power, until stuff actually worked. And we figured it out. So my first event was a wedding after not being a DJ, literally thrown to the fire just to just do the right thing for these people and for, my brother's, reputation. It wasn't good. It wasn't pretty. To this day, probably one of the most stressful days of my life. Like now at that time, at the age I thought of myself as a kid, but I was a younger, adult. Like I understood what needed to be done. So I just did what I could do and that was it, man. So that was like the roots of DJ Rachel, but
Wow.
it wasn't meant to be. Like I didn't want to be a DJ, but here we are.